So in today's video, we're going to take a look at what's going to happen if Asia unites into one single country in 2024. And this union is very unlikely to happen as there are countries with very different culture and language. But just for the sake of this video, we're going to assume that Asia unites into one single country. Yeah, let's get right into the video. But here in Europe, we can see that Russia lost a lot of their territory to the Asian Union. Also, Kazakhstan had a little bit of part in Europe, and Georgia also had a little bit of part here. But they decided to join Russia in hopes of not getting invaded by the Asian Union. Also, Turkey is now surviving in Thrace, and we can see that the Asian Union also has this part of Egypt. But because of being too big, Asia is going to try to stabilize their country, and after 200 years of stabilization and militarization, the Asian Union is now ready to invade some countries. But in all these years, there were a lot of other unions between countries. Like in Europe, we can see that Ukraine and Belarus joined Russia, and even though Ukraine hates Russia, they decided to put aside all of their differences because they did not want to go against this all by themselves. In Europe, we can see that Thrace decided to join Bulgaria, Moldova united with Romania, and up here we can see a Baltic union between Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and there is a Nordic union between all these countries and Finland. Last but not least, we can see that Ireland decided to join the UK. Another union was the North African Union, and this is amongst the Muslim countries who don't want to get rolled over by Asia. But now it's time to get into the wars. And now Asia feels confident enough to take on all of the Oceanic countries. And we can see that the Asian troops are pushing into Papua New Guinea, which falls within one day. And they also managed to take all of these island nations. And we can see a naval landing on the coast of New Zealand. And thus they take their capital city. And after some rapid military campaigns, we can see that New Zealand also surrenders. And the only remaining country in Oceania is Australia. But we can see a naval landing on the east coast of Australia. We can see another naval landing on the northern coast of Australia, and thus these troops also push down the coast. Tasmania is taken. These troops eventually meet up, and thus they take the important parts of Australia. The last naval landing was on the west coast of Australia, but after losing their major cities, Australia finally goes ahead and surrenders. And in a peace treaty here, we can see that all of these countries got completely annexed by Asia. And now Asia is sending all of their troops from Australia to the border with Russia, and after the arrival of these troops, we can see that Asia declares war on Russia. We can see that the Asian troops are pushing in from the Caucasus region, and thus they push into the parts of Ukraine. They take Crimea, and eventually the southern coast is lost. In eastern Russia, we can see that the Asian troops are pushing into Russia, and their goal is to get to Moscow. These troops eventually meet up with the main army, and this encircled part of Russia surrenders. But after a decisive military campaign, we can see that Moscow is taken. Russia doesn't surrender, but this was a huge blow to the Russians, and eventually St. Petersburg is also taken. The northern half was weak, so they just go ahead and surrender. And after pushing furthermore into Russia, we can see that Russia finally goes ahead and surrenders. And in a peace treaty here, we can see that all of Russia got completely annexed by Asia. But moving on, now we can see that Asia has complete access to these weaker European countries, and thus Asia declares war on all these Eastern European countries. But at the same time, down in the south, we can see that this North African Union has declared war on Asia. But you guys might think that this North African Union is not strong, but they were funding some rebellions in these Muslim states, and we can see that the rebellions rise up against the Asian Union. And eventually we can see that all of the Arabian Peninsula has risen up against the Asian Union, and these guys are trying to liberate all of the Muslim countries, and at first they are pretty successful. These guys were successful because the Asian army is in Europe, where we can see that the Baltic Union gets absolutely devastated. Bulgaria gets out of this war in 2 minutes. Slovakia and Hungary just surrender. And we can see that the Asian army has pushed into Warsaw, and Poland eventually surrenders. And with the capturing of Bucharest and their other major areas, we can see that Romania also finally goes ahead and surrenders. And in a peace treaty here, we can see that all of these countries got completely annexed by Asia. But while Asia was busy fighting in Europe, Muslims from all these countries rebelled against the state, and this is not looking good for Asia. But now they're sending back their army to this front line. These rebellions were not as strong as the Asian army. The Asians take back their territories, and eventually this entire rebellion is crushed. But remember, the Asian Union is at war with the North African Union. And does the North African Union stand a chance? No, they don't. And they get absolutely bombarded by Asia. We can see that Egypt has lost their major cities, and the Asian troops follow the Mediterranean Sea. And if you don't know, this part is entirely a desert. So yeah, anyways, the Asian Union has now taken the coastline of this entire North African African Union, which leads to them getting out of this war. And now let's take a look at this peace negotiation. And would you look at that, these countries also got completely annexed. And yeah, this is what Asia looks like on the map. This is probably the strongest country. It has the best economy / military. And now Asia is going to try to assimilate all of their new conquered provinces. And I can officially say that this is the world's most unstable country. But yeah, this is going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me what you guys want to see in the future. And thank you for watching.